Today's guest has one of the most impressive biographies I've ever read. Now, many people want to make the world a better place, but today you'll meet someone who actually does it as her full-time job.
My name is Eliane Ubalijoro. I'm a professor of practice at McGill University. I'm the executive director of Clear International Development. I'm passionate about peace building, innovation, and the role I can take in solving the issues related to neglected tropical diseases in the world.
Hi, Eliane. Thank you for being with me today.
Pleasure to be here.
I have to tell you, when you sent me your bio and I read through it, I was incredibly impressed. You've done so many things, and that's why when we first spoke, I'm like, you must be 100 years old. How did you do all this?
Well, I started university at 17.
Right.
So that helps.
That helps.
That helps.
Wow.
And I've been passionate about science from a very early age.
What triggered this curiosity?
Well, I grew up, I was born in Rwanda.
Okay.
And I grew up on 3 continents.
Wow.
And my parents always encouraged me to be curious. And so I was always interested in discoveries and what was happening in the world. And they also talked a lot about being of service to the world.
Okay.
What is it you want to do to be of service to the world? And so those 2 led me to be really interested in science and innovation.
Right.
And coming from a country in Africa where we had a lot of issues around food security,
Right.
I studied agriculture in my undergraduate. And from there, I went on to do my master's and my PhD, looking at innovations that could help increase productivity in agriculture.
Right. And a lot of the things you've done over the year are all connected somehow to that, right?
Yes.
And the way that I understood globally everything that you've done was that you find environmentally based solutions for economic growth. Is that a fair?
I would say it's environmental, health, and agricultural solutions.
Health as well,
really
okay.
life science. How can biology be a stimulus to economic growth?
Okay. And that's also the basis of your TED Talk.
Yes.
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 Can you tell me a bit more about that experience?
Yes, it was actually a defining moment in my life because it was in 2014.
Okay.
And it was 20 years after the Rwandan genocide.
Right.
And during the genocide, I was writing my master's thesis. And it was a time in my life where I didn't know if
Wow.
my parents, my brother were alive or not. And so 20 years later, to have the opportunity to give this TEDx talk in Montreal right after having been in Rwanda,
Okay.
after the 20th commemoration of the genocide, was a very powerful moment for me. And it was also just before I found out that I had received a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation grant to look at innovations for increasing agricultural productivity in Rwanda and working with women farmers in Rwanda. So it was a very exciting time in my life. And it was a time where I was able to look at my past at a time that was really a very dark time in my life.
Right, of course.
And be able to say, I can work towards building a better future. I can contribute to bringing information to Rwanda, to policymakers, to business people, to people working in agriculture, to female smallholder farmers to help them move more effectively forward. So it was a very exciting time for me, and I had also been involved in research looking at neglected tropical diseases and finding new medicines that come from the environment.
All at the same time?
Well, I'm a woman.
It's true, we're good at multitasking.
And so part of being a woman is, I think, juggling multiple interests at the same time.
Right.
And for me, my main interest is how is it that Mother Nature is a source of so much healing?
Right.
There's so much information, there's so much sources of food, medicine, of nutrients in nature. There's so much that nature gives us. And it's very important to find ways for people to value not only what we get in terms of food, but the value that conservation brings in terms of the possibility of future medicines for society. And it's really important in terms of countries that are low to middle income, so emerging countries where there's still a lot of poverty, to realize that conservation of nature can be a source of immense wealth for their own societies, and that innovations related to traditional knowledge that is linked to innovations that are happening in sciences can help unlock the knowledge that exists in nature, and that can be used to heal society.
Wow. And one of the key words that you mentioned is conservation of nature.
Yes.
Because a lot of these places, it's plentiful of nature, but they don't take care of it. Is that, you know, how you would explain it?
Well, I think it's sometimes when you're in situations where you're situations of survival, or you have so many challenges, it's hard to know how to prioritize conservation. And so one of my passions is to make people understand that conservation of nature is important to livelihoods in so many ways. When we're able to conserve trees, we have less flash flooding so that roads are not covered in water and mud. We have less loss of life when there are climate events that happen suddenly. We have better agriculture productivity, and there's a possibility really in Africa to increase agriculture productivity very significantly if we work at conservation, as well as looking at technological innovation and social innovation together. And so Africa has the most arable land in the world that isn't being used for agriculture.
Right.
And agricultural productivity in Africa is way below the standards in the Western world.
How come? I would think that that would be, like, not a given, but if I were to develop any kind of agricultural project, I would go to Africa.
Actually, it's the best time to be doing it in Africa.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of growth that can happen, and there's a lot of opportunities to benefit from the sunshine almost all year round.
Right, exactly.
And so if we're able to ensure that water is accessible in a sustainable way, we can get 2 to 3 crops a year, which is amazing. And so, but what is really important is to ensure that it's done in a way that conserves soils, that conserves nature, so that we do conserve the level of water that is needed to increase the agricultural productivity.
Okay. So for people that would be interested in doing that, could it be that the political climate is what is keeping people away from going to these places to develop the land?
Well, actually, one of the issues is how easy is it to initiate businesses, and that's changing a lot. It's easier to start businesses. The other thing is, what is the possibility of getting quality seeds? Depending on where you get your seeds, the quality seeds can produce sometimes 10 times more. And so ensuring that the channels for bringing in the right material are available is really important. And working at all levels, at the policy level, at the business level, one of the big issues is really the access to finance, because getting finance in the developing world is much harder and much more expensive than in Western society. And so when we're able to decrease the cost of getting loans, we're really able to stimulate businesses, because the risks, on average, interest rates are between 14 and 20%. And if you go to microcredits, they're even higher. And so the land is there, the sunshine is there.
I just had a flashback to my credit cards.
And so one of the things is really ensuring that we're able to have lower interest rates. And one of the areas that I'm interested in is, how do we show that it's not as risky as we think to invest in Africa? And when we're able to show that, then eventually, this is very simplified, then interest rates will go down. And so the more we have locally well-educated populations that we know can contribute to economic growth, the more we have stable governance structures that are in place, the more women contribute to economic growth.
Right.
Those build a society so that people have confidence in investing in a society. And so some of it is really about how do we increase that and how do we increase the brand, because there's a lot of possibility in terms of increasing agricultural productivity. And actually what's interesting is there are more billionaires, new billionaires happening in Africa than anywhere else in the world.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
And there are more African students are the highest number of graduate students in the U.S.
Okay.
So Africans are going around the world.
Yes, I saw that statistics.
Getting a lot of knowledge and are going back to help contribute to economic growth.
Well, see, that's good, because that's what I was going to ask is, are they going back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they're going back, and they're doing a lot of exciting work.
Okay, good.
And even the ones that are based here, for example, in Montreal, there's the REPAF de Réseau of the Professionnels Africains de Montréal, where they work here, but they contribute in numerous ways, either by going back and doing business back and forward, or by mentoring young students, African students here in Montreal that will go back. And so then they get access to business practices that were developed here in Montreal, and they're able to take them back to their respective countries, and they're able to increase connections with their countries and Montreal business.
Right.
And so what's really important is as we increase the networks that young Africans have access to when they come to study here, then they go back and they're able to contribute to the thriving of local economies and are able to then be able to do more in their societies, and that helps de-risk finance. And then more and more people will be able to get loans to start their entrepreneurships of their companies and contribute in new ways to economic growth.
Wow. And somehow, somewhere along the way of doing all that, you stopped in Haiti, too. You did some work there.
Yes. Well, it's very interesting to me because Haiti and Rwanda are about the same size.
Okay.
And what's very interesting is that they've had very different paths.
Right.
They've both been through a lot of trauma, a lot of disasters. And in Rwanda, it was human disaster mostly,
Right.
and Haiti has gone through the earthquake. Right now it's actually a very delicate time because there are some serious weather events happening, and there are winds about 250 kilometers an hour right now as we speak. People are in their homes and they're not going outside.
Right.
And so one of the things is that here are two countries approximately the same size, approximately the same population, and for the last 20 years, they have had different paths.
Okay.
And in Rwanda, leadership has been really central to moving the country forward. And so one of the things that I've been involved in is sustainable development in Rwanda. And my interest was, how can I bring the knowledge that I have gained working in Rwanda to Haiti? So I have had the opportunity to work in Haiti, to work with the Ministry of Environment, to work with various international institutions, work with entrepreneurs, and see how the lessons that I've learned in Rwanda can be passed on to
Because
Haiti.
it has been sustained, the development in Rwanda compared to Haiti.
Well, Rwanda has had a lot of economic growth, significant growth, and also has had a lot of work in terms of Rwanda has over about 64% women in parliament, so it has the highest rate of women parliamentarians in the world. And so the contributions women are making in society have been facilitated by policies that really encourage women to participate in the economy and policymaking, in micro business, larger businesses. And so all of that is knowledge that I've been sharing with colleagues in Haiti, but I've also been listening to Haitians and seeing what are their interests, how can policymaking facilitate their dreams to come true.
Okay.
And so my interest is really harnessing people's potential.
Right.
How do you help people get to their highest potential? And how do we share our lessons of what we've learned in terms of best practices in the world?
Do you also mentor people to follow in your footstep and do this sort of thing? I'm kind of asking selfishly because I've thought so many times I should go to Haiti and try to do something, teach or develop, somehow contribute to women over there. And I mean, the show talks a lot about Montreal women, but eventually I'd love to get to know the different women across Canada and in other countries. So how can you teach me to save the world?
Wow. Well, this is a fabulous question.
No pressure.
Absolutely. This is exciting for me. I really feel that every single human being on this planet can help save the world.
Yes.
And it starts with an inner journey of our personal transformation. What is it we need to transform inside of us? What is it we're called to do? What is it we're really good at? And how does that meet a need in the world? And when we find a place where all these meet, then we're able to contribute to society in the most effective way. And if every single child in the world was raised to have that opportunity,
Right.
we could have a world where all energy is sustainable, where all children have access to food, where creativity of every single human being is harnessed, and that we can do that while caring for each other in a
And that's
respectful way that values women, that values men, that values children, and that values that potential creativity that's in all of us.
Right.
And so that's a subject that I'm absolutely passionate about, and I'm always involved in mentoring and coaching, and I do leadership executive training where I help executives working in international development to look at how their roles can be harnessed in more powerful ways, in ways that align with their values, because often when the work we do speaks to the values we hold inside of us, we are able to bring passion and knowledge to the work. And when we're able to talk to other people and find out what their values, then we know ways of bringing what it is we want to bring to the world and what is it they want to bring.
How to harness their abilities.
Absolutely. And it's about win-win. How do I bring my best? How do you bring your best? And how do we maybe go to Haiti together, you know? And it's about the women of the world. For me, it's about how do we harness that energy that's been there, that's really advancing in a lot of ways, but we still have a long ways to go to really fully harness women's energy in the world. And I think when we're able to do that more effectively, then there's also less pressure on men.
Right.
And then they have more capacity to be vulnerable, to bring their vulnerability and compassion to work.
Right.
So we have leadership in the world that really focuses on people's creativity, on caring, but as well as the bottom line.
Right.
We always have to think about that, but if we're able to really harness people's passions and creativity and make it safe to fail, then we really create places where people thrive.
Right.
And
saying safe to fail is really important. Actually, I discussed this recently with another guest, and we were saying that sometimes, actually not sometimes, a lot of the time, just the fear of failure is what prevents people from doing amazing things.
Yes. And you know what's interesting about that is sometimes the excitement we feel before something big that we label as fear of failure has actually the same biological symptoms as excitement. So sometimes it's how we label it.
Okay.
And if we're able to feel that nervous energy in us and
the butterflies.
Yeah. And we're able to say, maybe I'm excited because I'm going into an unknown space.
Right.
And I'm not sure where this will take me. But let me be curious about this moment. And let me know that if I fail, I will learn from my failure. And if I can learn from my failure, then I can move forward. Because bottom line, the most successful people in the world are the people who fail the most.
Right.
Because
risk takers.
They just keep going. They get up, they fall, and they get up faster. And they learn. And they share their learnings. And they want to be of service to others. And when you see that, people will come and help you.
Right.
But it requires vulnerability.
Definitely.
And
that alone can be scary.
It's hugely scary. But at the same time, if you think about the leaders we connect with, you know, I think a lot about Michelle Obama because she's finishing up. And her authenticity, her vulnerability, coupled with her intelligence, makes her this amazing woman.
I agree.
And so it's really about knowing that connecting with our vulnerability is equally important as connecting with our intelligence.
Right.
And one of my sheroes, Wangari Maathai, really, who was a Nobel Prize winner who helped plant 1 billion trees on the planet, and who was a Kenyan woman. And I met her in Montreal. She had been invited
really?
by students at Concordia to give a keynote before she died, and I really was lucky to have met her. She had that combination of authenticity, strength, resilience, and vulnerability. And she was able to do things that nobody thought were possible.
Right.
And so a lot of her work that allowed planting 1 billion trees, one of her dreams was to be able to reforest Haiti. She wasn't able to do that in her lifetime.
Okay.
But all of us can contribute to helping her dream
Let's do it.
forward. Absolutely.
Let's do it. Because, you know, when you think about something like that, I don't know if that's everyone's experience, but for me, there are certain things that I would like to do, and I think, it's so big, and it's so beyond me.
Yes.
Can I really do this?
Well, I think it's really important to allow ourselves to go there. Because one of the things, in terms of growing our own leadership, we have to keep ourselves uncomfortable. And I often say, if nobody's saying, who do you think you are thinking this big, you're not playing at a high enough level.
Right.
And so it's really important to dream big. It's important to ask for help to help those dreams come true. And it's important to bring our vulnerability, our intelligence, our expertise, and that space of saying, I know I'm not going to be able to do it alone.
Right. Well, that's amazing advice, and I agree. I think everyone should dream big. Why start small?
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for making the time today, and we have a lot more to talk about. So thank you so much, and thank you to you guys for joining us on another episode of Couch Talk. So don't be afraid to dream big, and we will see you next time.
Wish to see you, wish to see you, many other colors. Wish to see you, wish to see you, many other colors.